Will they, won't they? When it comes to the Dallas Mavericks, we've been asking ourselves that for quite a bit when it comes to potentially trading Anthony Davis. Same actually applies to several other teams and their star players, like, for example, the Atlanta Hawks. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and maybe some cryptic tweets from Trae Young as I spit as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive into it. My name is Donnie Freeman here on the Basketball Bulletin. You know, if Trevor was here, we would have cut the blooper out, but you know what? I think it's nice to have a little bit of personality every now and again. Wait, hold on. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Trevor has no personality because there's going to be that one person. All right, so we do have some Mark Stein stuff, and it actually pertains to a lot of different teams, but it's mostly the same teams that we've heard about a good bit and just adding more context to the situation. So in summary, right, as it pertains to AD, they want to trade AD, but there's no imminent nature to it. You know, we have the report that he's going to be traded. Now, we do have a counter report that, hey, that may not be the case, right? Rich Paul wants insight as to where he's going to go. He's very connected to the front office and would definitely be a big part of any destination or any potential deal for Anthony Davis. He is believed to want AD to go to Atlanta. There's been a lot linking Atlanta to AD, but some of that's just because Jalen Johnson being a client there. I believe Trae was a former Clutch client. It isn't anymore. I have to confirm on that. But Jalen Johnson is. He would like to pair those guys up like he typically likes to try to do. And as it pertains to the Hawks, when it comes to Trae Young, we talked about this recently. They want to trade Trae Young first before they actually acquire AD. And the big reason why is because they'd want to send a big salary out first before absorbing another one in. And that's the idea there. And then with AD, we also have the concerns of, well, multiple years under, extension, all that stuff, right? We also have some stuff on the Lakers and the market for them and some of the realities of that situation and more. So stay tuned, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. Let's get this video to a like goal of 400 likes. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think they should do. And let's get into it here. So we also noted last week, it was increasingly believed that Atlanta is willing to surrender Zach Risa-Share in the proverbial right scenario, but sources with knowledge of Atlanta's thinking have signaled this week to multiple outlets, including this one, that the Hawks do not believe an in-season swing for Davis meets those parameters when it comes to using the 2024 number 1 overall pick. So long story short, we had the report that, like he said, Zach may be in a trade, but they're basically saying, maybe, but not for AD. That's pretty much what they're saying here. The Mavs are believed to be willing to discuss trades for anyone on the roster not named Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving, but that hardly guarantees that a Davis deal will materialize before the February 5th trade deadline buzzer. Maybe such a deal does, a no less distinct possibility. Dallas might be forced to wait until closer to the draft, like Phoenix did before they traded Kevin Durant in June, for palatable offers to materialize. And that's a part of this too. They have their pick this year. With AD, I don't know that you need, because he may just go down on his own. It's knock on wood, of course, but it could happen, right? But there's been a lot of reporting that, like, they want to see what this team can be, all this and all that. But when it comes to reporting, there's constant counter reporting, because you just don't want out there that you're looking to blow up your team, this and that. You don't really want that out there. So there's just so many different angles this all comes from. It's kind of funny. Source war is going back and forth. This is true. No, that's true. Actually, never mind. We didn't mean that. We mean this instead. It's just all back and forth. But with AD, a few things remain true. I don't think he's a part of their long-term plans, right? But one thing that has been consistent is that Kyrie seems to be. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. In fact, it's probably is for the better, because I'd imagine Mavs fans like Kyrie much more than AD at this point. Nothing against AD, but, they love Kyrie and all that stuff from his stint with Luka as well. So that probably is part of it too. But just to me, Kyrie is, in his 30s now. I don't know that he is the guy they should be trying to have as a big part of their core there. But one thing Kyrie has done is he's been a great mentor to Cooper. And I'd imagine that's one of the things they're factoring in here too. Like, you can have an older guard on your team to be a vet in the locker room, things like that. Man, we're at a point where Kyrie is the vet, man. That's crazy. He's been a vet for a while, but, he's the old guy in the locker room now. You can do that for sure, but I just, when it comes to building around Coop, you're going to need to get pieces that fit his specific timetable, right? And this summer gives them the unique opportunity because they do have their own draft pick. And it looked like they were kind of floundering early to start the season, struggling to win. And maybe they may get a high draft pick, but they've since rebounded and been pretty decent as of late. And Coop's really rounded into form. So for better or worse, I think that may be something that they have to kind of deal with. And then they also don't really have any other picks. So if you're trading AD, you want to get back. Okay, they have the ones you can't trade, right? But if you're trading AD, you want to get back some more picks as well to really try to help build out the roster, get some more young guys in there. My worry with Cooper is that he may have a similar situation to Luka in that he may just be too good too fast to really, and LeBron had this too. That's a very high bar though, because we don't know what Cooper is yet. But these guys that are like truly, truly that guy, they're just too good too fast, right? And the team doesn't bottom out enough in order to get enough draft picks. Now, we're looking at San Antonio. They got one of them guys too, but they've been a unique situation. That doesn't typically happen that way. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and elaborate much more on that in a moment. But first, we have a quick word from today's video sponsor.
Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed, this is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin.
Stein then goes on to elaborate that, like I was mentioning earlier, Rich Paul has an open line of communication with the brain trust, if you will, in Dallas. And basically that all suggests that Davis, wouldn't simply be dispatched somewhere without a level of collaboration with his camp. So that's something they're going to be working on. And he does note here that, again, Johnson is a Paul client, but Johnson and that first round pick from New Orleans are completely off the table. There was some reporting that Dallas really wants to get that. I'm sure everybody wants that pick right now. That's like one of the most coveted assets in the entire NBA right now, especially in terms of just draft picks, not players, like especially. He does note that Luka is about to make his return back to Dallas on the 24th of January, so that should be fun. He also mentions here a little bit on Fred VanVleet. Is he really out for the season? Not necessarily. The Rockets won't be guaranteeing a return this season, but they are also not completely ruling it out either. When we talked about them losing Fred, I think that I think we have a little bit of egg on our face, because not like we said anything hot takey or anything like that, but it was kind of hard to see how they would lose their lead ball handler and be able to still be the number 3 offense like they are currently. And a lot of that is because they just bludgeon you on the glass, right? They're the best offensive rebounding team in 30 years. They've also done it in aggregate. KD has had the ball in his hands. Thompson's had the ball in his hands. Reed has had the ball in his hands. Şengün took that leap. He's had the ball in his hands, playmaking, all that stuff. So they've done it in aggregate without Fred. So I just wonder, like, if they're able to add back in another steadying presence like him. Now, he may not be Fred this season if he returns at the end of the season. When you get those long season-ending type injuries, it typically takes a while. But I do wonder if that wouldn't just add another level to this team, getting that veteran presence in there. So ultimately, though, that's still something that is on the table. League sources say the Lakers continue to scour the trade market in hopes of acquiring a two-way wing with size before the February 5th trade deadline. Two factors, though, continue to work against the trade. The market for which such wings who can shoot from distance and defend remains quite limited. Yeah, everybody wants 3-and-D wings. It is what it is. With New Orleans still resistant to trade interest in both Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, It's believed that the Lakers are only going to sacrifice their projected financial flexibility in the summer, which is expected to furnish them with the ability to make significant roster moves only if they can acquire a real needle mover at the position. Will such a player actually become available over the next 4 weeks and change? Question mark. So there's a couple things in here to unpack. So firstly, he's saying they're not going to go out and target a Malik Monk, hypothetically, right? They're not going to go out and target something like that or somebody like that. That, while he could be nice, it could be nice to have a player like that coming in and just being a better version of what Nick Smith is, more ball handling, all that stuff. They're specifically looking for a 3-and-D wing that also is a needle mover if they're going to use their draft capital this season. And there's not a ton of guys that are actually on the market. They've been so heavily linked to Herb Jones, but Herb Jones is not really on the market. They don't really want to trade him. And so if a team doesn't actually want to trade a player, you're going to have to entice them, right? Rob once said, you can't buy a car there or a house. What was it? A house that's not for sale, right? So unless you're going to come in with assets they frankly don't have, right? Because they don't have the first rounds or even the second round picks really given, it's kind of hard to get somebody like that. And so you may be left in a situation where you're just getting guys you have to just take flyers on potentially, right? There could be some lesser known guys that could be useful, that would be young, fit the Luka AR timeline, things like that. But it's just going to be really hard for them to pull something off, especially because they want to keep that flexibility open. And that also, to me, means that they're probably not going to try to make a move for a guy like Wiggins, who kills the flexibility this summer. Like that's just another piece of this too. So this is all information we knew. We knew they were targeting this stuff, but it seems like that's their number one priority, not a backup big or anything like that. Although I think Jackson's been pretty good this season as a backup big. I digress. They're looking for that specifically. And it looks like there are certain parameters around it that will make it harder for them to get a certain player like that in-house. And so we have to just kind of see where this all falls for them. But I will say, like I said on the show on Laker Nation earlier today, if you have an opportunity to get somebody you like ahead of time, ahead of the summer, ahead of free agency, get that player in, take that step towards building the roster ahead of time and in the quote unquote proverbial free or pre-agency, you need to take that swing. I think. I don't think that you need to wait or anything like that. Give more teams time to get more assets to outbid you, for example, for a player like that. You could also start jump-starting some chemistry there, all that stuff for this player. So I think you need to pull a trade sooner than later if it does meet your criteria, right? You don't want to overpay. Absolutely not. But there could be somebody out there. But again, it may be somebody we're not thinking of or talking about, right? That you wind up having to take on in that case. All right, so he talks a bit about the Jazz and Markkanen yet again. Markkanen responded after the post game. Thanks. Below that only adds to the notion that, as we've been writing here for weeks, Utah wants to add to a core that features Markkanen and the fast-rising Keontae George, rather than making Markkanen available for a trade before the deadline. All right, so if that is truly the case, I think they can do that. I think they can do that. I think they've actually got a few pieces already there. I like Walker. He needs to get back and be healthy, of course. I think they can do that. They have some other young guys that they'd be bringing up in the wings, like Bailey and a couple others. I think they need one more like high-level guy in there. Keontae has absolutely taken a leap. If that's the way they really want to play this, I have no problems with it. Do I see them getting anywhere towards like a championship anytime soon? No, but that's perfectly fine. Every team has their own timetable, right? I think they could be a play-in, playoff team next season if healthy, with Lowry performing the way he's performing and been performing this season. I think, and Keontae too, right? I think that also another year of seasoning on some of those younger guys, they could be that next season. And that wouldn't be surprising, right? So I wonder if that's the right decision. I do wonder if they shouldn't just trade Lowry, try to get back assets, extend this another couple years in terms of your rebuild and go from there. I do understand if they wouldn't want to do that, why that would be the case. All right, so the last thing here is Trae Young and some on Jaylen Brown, but I did cover that already in a recent video, so make sure you check it out. This one is for the aforementioned Trae Young. Although it was not immediately clear whether Ice Trae was referring to the loudest speculation of his career, that the Hawks are open to trading him for even louder suggestions that his defensive frailties have caused Atlanta's 2-8 record when he plays this season. In fairness to Trae, he and Atlanta's foremost interior presence, Kristaps, have not played in the same game since October 29th. And Trae tweeted, "Consider the source before you consider the statement." That is very, very cryptic. Very cryptic. I mean, that's for the record, that is a general thing. With most information out there, you do want to consider where it comes from, right? So I do wonder what he's talking about. But there are a couple of realities here with Trae Young. Firstly, this season, the team has performed better without him, is what it is. We went into the season with the question of, they didn't reach a new deal, right? With the question of, is Trae Young still a long-term piece for them? They wanted to find out as well. They wanted to find out more about Jalen Johnson, who's dealt with injuries. He's coming to his own. He looks like every bit of the player he's thought to be. Dude is amazing. And he fits more of the modern NBA and where you would like to go with the team. Trae, undersized, defensive concerns. They clearly perform worse on that end with him out there. They have played 10 games with him. They're 2-8 with him. Just is what it is, right? That doesn't mean Trae isn't a great player or anything like that. I just think that he has very real issues that any team building around him would need to address. The funny thing is, I think that this team addressed those issues. Like the team that they have around Trae, okay, sure. If Kristaps is playing, that would obviously add another rim protector, things like that. But the team they have around him is defense oriented, switchy, all that stuff, long, athletic. This is the type of team you would want around him. So if he's not able to be successful for one reason or another in that type of system, that's where it's really troublesome, right? Like that's where it's really troublesome. I kind of think like Trae's a 25-10 guy. I don't really have a problem with him. 25-12. I kind of think the NBA also wants to try to transition to like a 6'4" and up league where like if you're a smaller guard, it's kind of hard, right? Because you just get bullied. You get picked on, you get isolated, you get hunted, all these other things. So it just makes it really difficult. And the only way to truly excel is to be immensely good at a skill like Steph, for example, at shooting, where he's going to offset any of that stuff. And he at least tries. He's bigger than Trae too, which matters a lot. I think that's kind of where we're at. So with Trae, I'm not saying he should be out of the league or anything. Certainly not. I just think that it's kind of hard if you want to build a team that has serious title aspirations to pay Trae a max deal, right? Which is why I think that they balked at that during the summer and why I think most teams would balk at that. And then lastly, a lot of teams already have their guards, right? They could also get upgrades, sure, but a lot of teams also have guards that they're comfortable with. And I don't think Trae's at a point of his career where he's okay coming off the bench or anything like that, nor do I think he should. He's still an all-star caliber guard. It's just a really tough fit, I think. So I do wonder about that. And I do wonder about where things lie for him next in the future. That's something that remains to be seen. But hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Make sure that thumbs up and subscribe. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick. My voice is a little bit deeper as well. I can feel it and it's hard to talk. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.